It's nice to connect with you again, Chris. I think the last time we spoke was in February under a little bit of different pretenses. You
Yeah.
were you were recently arrested.
Yep.
So things are a little different now. Now you're running for state assembly. How are things going?
Yeah, it's going well. We had a really good couple first days in terms of fundraising and getting the word out. I think we're over like 650 or 700 unique donors, which is really good for a state assembly race. And yeah, it's just trying to make people aware that hey, I exist and I'm running for this seat, and I would like to solve some of the problems that we're currently facing because we're not really in a good spot as a society or as a democracy right now.
When we last spoke, you correct me if I'm wrong, you were kind of on the fence about running. You weren't
Mhm.
totally sure about it. What changed all of this?
Yeah, so really just kind of the growing escalation of what Donald Trump is doing on the national level, as well as on the local level. One of the potential candidates that I'll be running against is Gracie Vandermark, who is one of our city council members who has been kind of the architect behind all the attacks on our public library. And so when I saw that she was going to be in the race, I'm like, okay, I know from a personal perspective, like just how bad her policies are in terms of affecting people. And I really don't want her getting more power in our government system.
You're Long Beach, you're Southern California, tried and true. You know that that area is pretty right leaning. How do
Mhm.
you feel going up against the political climate in that area?
Yeah, so I think it's a very winnable race because in that district, about 30% of the district is actually independent slash no party preference. And I basically grew up that way, right? Where I was like, I don't want to have to care about politics. Like, I don't want to have to care about what's going on. Just make the government work and leave me alone. And that's a lot of people that are in this district. And the thing is, if I can get them to be aware of the fact that, like, okay, I really need you guys to show up this one particular time because if you don't, we won't have a democracy anymore. And then you really will have to care about politics, but it'll be too late. So the goal is to, obviously motivate the Democratic base to come out and vote. And that means addressing the current issues with the Democratic Party, but then also giving the independents and no party preference people a reason to vote, which is, hey, I am going to listen to what you want and what you care about, and I know that what you care about is being left alone. But right now, we got to do the work to get back to that spot. Otherwise, yeah, it's not going to be good for anyone.
And I mean, you're working at a local level here. You're appealing to District 72. And, you know, how do you intend to connect to these local voters? How do you intend to appeal to your voter base?
Mhm. Yeah, so three of the really big issues. The first one is obviously affordable housing. We're facing a huge affordable housing crisis in California right now, and the current Assembly Bill 130 they got passed, and then Senate Bill 131. They go a significant way towards addressing that, but the question is going to be, do they go far enough? Because if people don't have a home, then they can't thrive. They don't have opportunities to succeed in life. So making sure that we're actually creating affordable housing for people and giving them those opportunities. That's a really big one. The second one's going to be mitigating the effects of climate change, because in that district, four of the cities are coastal communities, and then three are right next door to the like the Laguna Beach Nature Preserve, which is a huge fire risk. Like if you look on any sort of environmental map, it's like bright red. So we need to. We're obviously not solving climate change in the manner that we need to. So right now we can't abandon it. We should still be trying to solve climate change, but now we need to be talking about, okay, how do we mitigate climate change, right? Because there's already a bunch of areas in California where people can't get insurance anymore. Like the insurers just simply won't insure their houses because they know there's a much higher risk of those houses getting destroyed. It's just like, okay, how do we mitigate that, right? Like how do we make sure that people don't lose everything and then have no way to get their future back? And then the last issue I really want to focus on, this is more of like a broad reaching one, but really regulating the intrusion of AI into our public schools and our daily daily workforce. because I think it's pretty clear at this point that the AI bubble is going to burst. It's probably going to burst pretty soon. And you have these companies pushing a non-working product in order to try to make it public policy so that way they can get bailed out with government money. And I'm not okay with that. We all saw what happened during the financial crisis in 2008, 2009 with the banks that were too big to fail. And I don't think that's healthy for our society. Like I think, if you're going to take this huge risk on a product and you can't make it work, well, guess what? That's capitalism. Like you guys are the ones who always say we want full stage capitalism. Well, that's the consequences. Like you can't have capitalism for the rest of us and socialism for you. Like that, things don't work that way.
You had quite the negative reaction, I guess,
Mhm.
from more of the right-leaning people. Have you riled them up again since announcing this? Has there been a reaction from those people?
Anything from those people from the far right that currently infest Huntington Beach. I'm sure it'll come at some point in the future. I've been doing a lot of speaking at like Democratic clubs in the area, and I'm sure once I start doing like town halls and like open meetings, they'll probably show up and try to start something. But at the end of the day, like those people are never going to vote for me anyways. Like they're not concerned about America as a democracy. The government they want is fascism with Trump as their leader. And so we can't have a bipartisan solution with people who want to exterminate trans people, right? Like we can't have a bipartisan workplace with people who refuse to admit that climate change is actually happening. And so, my concern isn't with those people. Like I said, my concern is with the Democratic base, and with the independent, no party preference people, because I think across America, the people who want a democracy far outnumber those who want an authoritarian form of government. And we just need them to show up, and we need to give them a reason to show up.
I noticed that recently you have been suing the school district that fired you. Can you talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's my firm belief and my lawyer's belief as well that Edison violated my First Amendment rights by firing me from my job as a freshman high school coach. And yeah, we're taking it to the courts because as of now, our legal system still kind of works. We'll see how long that lasts for, but it's to me, it's not about the money. It's about the fact that I want other people to understand that like if this happens to you, you do have legal recourse under the law, right? Like if this happens to someone, who is a lifelong teacher and they're afraid that, oh, well, if I speak out, then I might lose my job. In America, we have the right to speak out. We have the right to say unpopular things. Like that is precisely what the First Amendment is for. And you can see that Trump is already trying to get rid of that. Like he's signing an executive order saying that he's going to arrest people who burn the American flag. It's like, you might not like the fact that people burn the American flag, but guess what? That's the whole premise of a democracy. That people can tell the government, hey, you suck, and then the government does not persecute them for it. Like that's what America is about. So yeah, it's I'm really happy that the ACLU has signed on with the lawsuit, because I think that goes a long way towards showing, hey, this isn't just Chris suing the school district. Like this is legitimately a First Amendment issue.
Just looking at like this progression of this, you have been an activist for a long time and you've spoken out against, or you've spoken out in support of things and people that you believe deserve rights, that you
Mm-hmm.
believe, deserve basic human decency.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a tried and true thing for you for a long time, and that hasn't changed. And now you're taking it to politics.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see yourself like inspiring young men to follow in these steps as well?
Yeah, no, I mean that'd be great if that happened. Like, because I think right now we're having a huge problem with toxic masculinity, especially in sort of the young male cohort. And if I could be a role model, then that would be amazing. But at the end of the day, like I do this stuff because the world I want to live in is one where I am left alone to do the things that I want to do. But the problem is, if everyone else doesn't have that same opportunity, well, then eventually they're going to get around to coming for me. I don't really want them to get around to coming for me. So I got to stand up and fight for everyone else because I'm actually protecting myself. when I protect marginalized groups. Like it's not a very tough equation to understand. Like, you can take out all of the moral aspects of it, just, from a pure utilitarian standpoint. When you protect marginalized groups, you protect yourself. Like it's a very, very easy concept. But yeah, no, it would be great if I give young people a reason to stand up and get involved, to give them a reason to stand up and fight. Because I know when I was younger, I didn't really feel that way, and I don't want people to make those same mistakes. Like I want young people to care about politics and care about what's going on in their world, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have to, like, show up and protest every week, or like that you have to run for office, but just to be informed and aware of what's going on, I think would go a long way towards healing a lot of the wounds in our country.
When it comes to the protests as well, since what happened with the plaque, have you been active in the community since then?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been showing up to the like the No Kings protests, both here in Huntington Beach and then in other areas. And then there's other local protests that are going on. I know we have one at Main Street outside the Civic Center that I'm planning on going to this weekend. And yeah, it's, I highly recommend to anyone who feels sort of like, oh, I don't know what to do, show up to one of the No Kings protests. Show up to your local city council meeting, and realize that there are a lot of people out there who feel the same way that you do, and it becomes a lot less scary and a lot more energizing when you see those people out there saying, like, no, we're not going to stand for this, because it lets you know that you're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you have a family as well. How has this been? Is this like a family affair, or how does this work in a family dynamic for you?
Yeah, so for my family, I think it's like, oh, dad's doing something again. So it's my kids are teenagers, so they're very much, kind of doing their own thing, and obviously they're supportive, but it's not really their jam. And then my wife works. She's actually a licensed clinical physician, and she's the director of a local youth shelter. And so she's spending a lot of time just trying to deal with the effects of this administration, right? Because her facility has lost a bunch of federal funding that they rely on, and obviously it's tough for kids that are out there these days, especially in vulnerable populations. So yeah, it's she's supportive, but like she's pretty busy with what she's doing. So it's like, I'm like, great, my family is there, but I'm not, expecting them to be like, you have to show up at every event, because they're human beings. Like
Yeah.
they make their own choices.
I mean, and when we talk about like protests and like showing up to these things, and there's this other perspective coming from the right of people being very radical, and I know that and it's part of your lawsuit as well, that people were painting you as very, very radical and inciting violence, of
Mhm.
wanting to blow up the
Right, the city council.
library. Yes. Which I understand was also slang. Uh,
Mhm. Yeah, it
um,
was pretty easy to tell what I was actually saying.
yes. But how would you describe yourself to these people who are more independent in your
Mhm.
district? To give them a perspective of you, of like, that isn't really this incendiary, violent person.
So I would say I'm passionate about the things that I believe in, and I always give 100% when I choose to do something. And in this case, the thing I'm choosing to do is trying to save our democracy. And I'm also not someone that's going to shy away from telling the truth. Like I will always be honest with people that I talk to. And right now, that honesty compels me to say we are living under an authoritarian ruler who is trying to make things worse for this country. And the Republican Party as a whole has shown no desire to pull him back. And in fact, they are enabling him every single day. So if you want to save America, if you want to show up and be in a democratic country, you can't look at this like, oh, it's business as usual. Like your mindset has to be, you're looking at this as, okay, what were the founders thinking? right? When King George was declaring tyrannical edicts over the colonies. Like what how did they come together? What were their conversations like? Because that is the situation that we're in. I mean, we have a president who is deploying the United States military into cities with no valid justification for doing so. And that has never happened before in this country. He's making up reasons to deploy the National Guard, ignoring governors that are telling him, no, we don't need the National Guard here. There's no emergency. And so it's clear that Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. He said it himself. And I believe Donald Trump when he says he wants to do something, because his history has always shown that when he says he wants to do something, he will try to do that thing. Now, he doesn't always succeed in doing that thing, but he will always attempt it. And so I believe him. And so as a country, as states, as cities, we need to be prepared for that. And we need to understand that we have to stand up and we have to show them that this isn't what America is about.
When it comes to like why the National Guard was here, why the military was deployed, like what are your thoughts on ICE being, so heavily deployed in Southern California?
Yeah, so it's clear. I think Donald Trump has read one book in his life, and it's Mein Kampf, and he wants his own brown shirts. He wants his private paramilitary force that answers only to him, that will do whatever he wants them to do, because he does not regard himself as a president. He regards himself as a king. And a king can tell you to do something, and you have to do it. A president says, "I would like to do this," and then we argue about it, and we come to a consensus. So I think Donald Trump is looking to create a situation where he'll be able to declare martial law. And I think it's really important, especially in democratic states, that our governors are talking to the National Guard leaders and making plans for when that happens. And honestly, one thing I would really like to see here in California is I know our congressional representatives haven't been able to get in to actually look at ICE facilities, which is against the law. ICE cannot prevent them from doing that. And so I would like to see our governor actually tell the National Guard, hey, we want you to help uphold federal law. You are going to escort these congressional representatives to this ICE facility. And then if ICE does not let them in, you are going to make ICE let them in, because their job as representatives of us as the people is to provide oversight. And if they're not being allowed to provide oversight, well, that's no longer a legal facility. Like that is insurrection. If you're not letting members of Congress do their job, you're no longer obeying America and the Constitution. And we need to be able to call that out.
One of the things that's been really popular, or at least that we've noticed when it comes to politicians, has been this like, genuine nature of people now. And you really have that. And with like your Warcraft account, for example, you are very genuine. Do you plan to keep that going? I mean, do you plan to just stay I mean, unpolished in the best way possible?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to be me, much to the dismay of my campaign manager. But I think that has what has gotten people to support me over the years, is that they understand that when I say something, like I'm not saying something because it polled well, or the focus group said, oh, this is the thing Chris should said. I'm saying it because I believe in it, and I think it is important for me to say it. And honestly, that's one of the huge problems with the Democratic Party right now, is that people are really upset at the GOP because they are seeing what the GOP is doing and the excuses the GOP is giving, and it does not match with objective reality. And so they're saying, we do not like the GOP. But on the flip side, the Democratic Party is refusing to recognize what the GOP is doing, and they're not recognizing objective reality. And so people are upset at them as well. Because if you're, just an average American and you get a Democratic representative telling you this is fascism, you need to stand up to it, but then you don't see that elected official actually doing anything about it, why would you care what they have to say? You're giving them no reason to believe in you. You're just trying to do what the analysts and the consultants are telling you to do. So yeah, I don't plan on changing, because honestly, I think that honesty is what people are looking for. They're looking for someone who will tell them, here's what's happening, here's how we need to address it. And yeah, we might be wrong, but we can talk about that. We can discuss that. And if it is wrong, well, then let's figure out a different way to go about doing it.
I have one other totally random question, and this is just for personal
Sure.
curiosity. When did you come up with otaku? And
Yep. So I actually came up with that in response to Gamergate. Because I wanted to write a story where the Gamergaters would initially think that like, oh, I'm the protagonist. I'm the one that this story is about. And then right around chapter 3, they'd be like, oh wait, I'm the bad guy. So that was my main motivation for writing Otaku, and I knew it was going to be a very polarizing book. Like it was going to be, a certain segment of the sci-fi audience was going to be like, "This dude sucks, we hate him," and then a bunch of other people would be like, "Oh no, that's really cool. Like it's not just the same straight white male fantasy."
it's fantastic.
Oh, thank you.